Hi everybody, the Home Service Pro here. In today's video, I had a homeowner call me, tell me that their faucet, when they ran it, that it leaks on the counter around the handles here. So they bought a new faucet, they want us to put a new faucet in for them. So we'll get the new faucet put in. It comes with a new drain assembly, we'll get that replaced as well. Let's get right after it. Okay guys, so this is what the faucet looks like from underneath. As you can see, we have our pop-up assembly here. This is the lever that turns our drain on and off. When you lift up on the lever up above, it shuts it off. When you push down on it, it opens it back up and allows the drain to drain out. We have our cold water side. This is our supply line coming up from our shutoff. That feeds the faucet. The water goes up through the faucet, comes back down this supply tube here, and comes up and goes out the spout. You have the same scenario over here on the hot side. This is our hot water supply line. It comes up through, comes back down out of the faucet, comes back around and goes back up to the spout. So it doesn't matter if you have the hot or the cold turned on, it comes out the spout in the middle. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get this supply line out of our way. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect this cold water supply line and get a wrench up in there. There we go. Got it broke loose. Go ahead and get my hand up in there. I'm going to push this pop-up out of the way just a little bit. There we go. Now get my hand in there. There we go. Now you might get a little bit of water out of this when you first open it up, just because there is still some water in the supply line and in the faucet. That one didn't drip at all. That's good. Okay. So our next thing we've got to do, I don't know if you can see this white clip that's right here. This white clip, it has two little tabs on each side that you push in on and pull down on it, and it'll pop that right off from there. So let's see what happens here. If I push in, pull down, there we go. There's that water I was talking about. So I did put a towel down inside the bottom of the cabinet to catch water. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the spout here. I'm going to go ahead and push in on these two tabs and pull down. There we go, disconnected that. And we'll do the same thing over here just to get this part of it out of our way. And not all faucets have these little tabs. Sometimes there's nuts in there. Sometimes there are different style that don't have the tabs. Give me 1 second here just so I can get this out. There we go. So now I'm going to take this whole assembly and just get it out of our way and set it out of the way there. Go ahead and grab some paper towel. I'm going to get this kind of dried up in here just so it's not wrecking anything. Okay, there we go. All right, so now our next step is if you look up in here at the cold side, I'm going to go ahead and bend this back closer like that. You can see that we have a Phillips screw right here, and there's another Phillips screw on the other side. That's going to loosen this up. Then we can back that all off by hand. So I'm going to get a Phillips screwdriver. We'll get up in there and we'll get those loosened up. And these here, you just got to get them loose. You don't have to back them off all the way, because all that's doing is drawing that nut up. This nut right here is just drawing that nut up tight. Now that we have those loosened up, this should be loose and we should be able to spin this right off. Okay, so that all comes down off in there. It should be the nut and the washer. I'll give you a little bit of a close-up look of that. So there's those two screws I was talking about. You just loosen those two screws up. It pushes up on this washer, which tightens the faucet up to the sink. So I'm going to go ahead and go up above, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that cold side right out of our way. There we go. That faucet's out of the way. Now we're going to go ahead and disconnect our linkage for our pop-up assembly. You just literally this little clip right here, you squeeze it just a little bit and it'll slide right back on that rod. Once you get that off, go ahead and you only got 1/2 of it off. You got to push it back, pop that off, and then this steel clip will come right off, right out to you here. This is that steel clip we were just messing with. I'm going to go ahead and set that off to the side because we're getting a new whole pop-up assembly and everything with this new faucet. So we're going to go ahead and loosen this on the back side here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a screw here. We're going to loosen that up. May have to get a wrench on that. Looks like I'm going to. Go ahead and get this wrench adjusted. And that's just a flat tab right here that it's just got a flat spot. So I'm actually going to use my crescent wrench. I'm just going to tighten my crescent wrench up just a little bit so I can get up on that. Just enough to get it broke loose. There we go. So now I should be able to do that the rest of the way by hand. No, didn't even need to. It fell right out. Okay, so this part that pops up through now, I'm just going to go up top, and I'm just going to lift the pop-up assembly right on up and out so it's out of our way. There we go. That's all pulled out of there now. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this pop-up rod right out of the way. All we got to do is loosen this little plastic nut up right here. And just pull it straight out. There we go. Now we got much easier access up in here to the rest of this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this supply line here disconnected. Just readjusting my wrench. That one's loose. Again, you might get some water when you first pull this apart because that faucet still has water in it. A little bit, not too bad. Get that supply line down out of the way. And again, we're going to go after these two Phillips screws here with the screwdriver. And again, you just got to get them loose. There we go. And then we're just going to simply loosen this back up again. This one was the side that was leaking, so we may have a little bit, it might not come apart quite as easy as the other one did. Nope, it's pretty loose. Again, we got that washer and the part that has the Phillips screws that I just pulled off. Okay, I'm going to go up top and pull the hot faucet up and out. There we go. That's out of the way now. Okay, so now all that we have left is the spout itself here. And this nut right here, it's kind of like a long nut. We got to get a wrench on this nut, back that nut off, and then this bracket up here that's holding up against the bottom of the sink will slide down that bolt that's in there and allow this whole thing to pull right up through the top there. So we're going to get that crescent wrench back in here again, get this guy adjusted. Once you get it broke loose, again, this should come right off by hand usually. Now, if your faucet's been leaking down underneath, it can get these nuts and these bolts and stuff down in here corroded, so they won't come off this easy. Sometimes you got to get pretty rough with them. All right, so as you can see, this is that long nut I was talking about, and then this is the bracket that holds that up against the bottom of the countertop. I'm going to go ahead and go up here, pull that spout up through the hole. And there we go. The faucet's completely removed now, ready for the new one. However, like I said, we're going to do the actual pop-up assembly as well. So let me get my camera adjusted here. There we go. So this is our pop-up assembly from underneath. We're going to go ahead and remove, let me just bring that down just a little bit. There we go. We're going to remove this P-trap here. remove this slip extension right here, and then we can remove the pop-up assembly, which is this guy here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Just make sure you understand that when you take this P-trap out, this P-trap is going to have water in it. So you're going to want to catch that water with something, and or if you remove it slowly, you're going to get a little bit of water on the bottom of the cabinet. Like I say, I did put a towel down underneath here. After that's all removed, I'm going to take that right over. I'm going to dump it in the sink behind, or the toilet behind me here, just to finish emptying that. So you loosen this top nut on your P-trap. That's loose now. Loosen this bottom nut. This is where you might get a little bit of water. There we go. And then you want to hold this P-trap, because once this top nut lets loose, like that, now this whole P-trap will come down off from there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this whole P-trap over, and I'm going to dump it out. That little bit of water is going to quit draining out here in just a minute. You're going to want to keep your P-trap unless you do end up buying a new one to replace it. So you want to keep all these little nuts and things like that. So I'm going to set that off to the side. Okay. So then this slip extension here, let me adjust my camera back up a little bit. There we go. This slip extension right here, if we loosen this nut up right here, then this slip extension will come right off, drop right down to us. And as you can see, that drain needed to be cleaned out. I'm going to set that off to the side. Then we want to keep this nut in this ferrule here. So we're going to go ahead and pull this ferrule right down off from this. Sometimes they can be a little stiff. You might have to wiggle it back and forth a little bit, but we're going to pull that off. And now I have the nut and the ferrule. We're going to go ahead and set that off to the side with that P-trap. All right, so now we have the whole P-trap and everything completely removed. I'm just going to spin this up and around just to get it out of the way here. Now, this nut up here, we got to loosen this nut right at the sink here. You guys have seen in other videos that I've done how to replace just a pop-up assembly. So if you're interested in just replacing the pop-up assembly, there are some other videos that'll show how to do that. I will link at the end of this video, that particular video on how to change a pop-up assembly. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and get a wrench right here on that nut. We're going to give that a turn, loosen that right up, all the way up. Now with this particular style, you have a rubber up top here that we're going to pull down. You take this whole drain assembly and push up on it. And when you do that, that rubber will loosen right up. That sink's obviously not siliconed down very well. But we're going to spin this around, and this should pop right off from there. Oh yeah. So I'm going to get this out of the way. And this is going to be thrown away because you get a whole new assembly with the new faucet. So this here, I'm going to go ahead and push this right up through the top, pull it out of there. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and move the camera and everything up top, so I'll be right back. Well, there you go, guys. Here's all the parts that we took off that faucet. We have the Phillips screws here that we loosened up, the ring that goes underneath. That goes all up on the bottom of this, which tightens this handle down to the faucet. We have this here where we removed the supply line. This rod right here was that pop-up assembly right here that I removed and pulled up out of the way just to get it out of the way. This is our spout itself. This right here is the connection that this guy goes onto. You can see that connection and this connection here that go on here. And it goes on here. This is our pop-up assembly linkage that we disconnected. That's that fitting or that nut down there that we loosened up with the crescent wrench to pop it off from this rod right here. This is the drain assembly. There's only one other part to that drain assembly that we got to take out yet, and I'm going to take you right up and we'll get that right out of the way right now. As you can see, the beauty ring here, that just pops up out of there. You can see how that just threaded in there. We were able to get that unthreaded. So that goes right on the top of this right here. So now this is all the old faucet. I'll get the new faucet out and we'll get putting the new one in. All right, guys, here's the new faucet that we're installing. We're going to go ahead and open this guy up. Get that lid to where it'll stay back for me. There we go. All right, so the first thing we have is we have the instructions here. It will give you step-by-step instructions on how to install the faucet. I'm going to set that off to the side. Okay, this is our new pop-up assembly here. We'll get that installed. We have our hot valve. As you can see, it's got red on the bottom. So this is our hot side. We'll get this guy fully installed. We're going to go ahead and just finish pulling all these parts and pieces out of the box here. We got the trim for the handles right here. We'll go through how to get all of this stuff fully installed here. I'm going to get everything unboxed and just kind of lay it out on the counter. I'll be right back. All right, guys, this is all the pieces that come with the new faucet. We have the trim for the handles, the little gasket that goes underneath it. We'll go through step by step how to put that in. We got the same thing over here on the cold side. We actually have the cold valve along with the nut and washer that tightens up underneath the sink. We have the gasket that goes under the spout here. We have the ring that tightens up against the bottom of the countertop with that same style long nut that will tighten up underneath there. This is the new connection here. You can see that the yellow goes on yellow here, and that's our Y pipe to make our hot and our cold. These two lines here, they will tie into the bottom here, and those all snap in. That's going to make our water go from the hot side and the cold side up into the spout, so it'll come out the spout. These adapters here, as you can see, this right here is our supply line size that we have down below. This size, well, this will tighten right onto this here. So it's an adapter to go from their faucet over to a supply line. So we'll get those all installed. This is our new drain assembly, our pop-up assembly. This doesn't have the arm because this has what's called a push pop, where you just go like this and it opens and closes this way. We'll get that installed. This is a tool that comes with it for tightening these nuts up underneath. This tool takes the nut just like that, and we're able to tighten that up with this tool from underneath. We'll go through that as we put it together. So we're going to go ahead and get this area here in the sink. We're going to get all of these old scale lines and stuff. We're going to clean this up, clean this drain area up, and then we'll get putting this faucet together. I'll be right back. All right, guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our hot side, and as you can see here, we have a rubber gasket, the washer on top. All of this is going to drop right down through this hole here. And actually, first thing I'm going to do is you see this rubber plastic cap here. I'm going to go ahead and just pop that off just so we don't have to deal with that down under the sink. This just slides right down in the hole, just like that. We're going to go ahead and take our spout. As you can see here, we got to have a gasket here, which is this guy over here. This here just slides up on here like that and sits right on there. We're going to go ahead and drop this down in the hole. And we're going to have to kind of adjust that once we get down in there. We're going to do the same thing with the cold side. I'm going to go ahead and pop this little plastic cap off there. And we're going to go ahead and drop this right down in the hole there. Just like that. So now we got our hot, cold, and spout down through the hole. Now we got to make all those connections down underneath. We'll come back to do the drain here toward the end after we get all of this other stuff hooked up down underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the camera down underneath. All right, guys, so we're back up under the sink here. We're going to go ahead and tighten the cold side up to the countertop first, then our spout, then our hot side. So the first thing we need is we need the square washer and this nut. As you can see, only half this nut has brass in it. We want to go ahead and put the side that has the brass up toward the countertop. So it'll go on just like this, up over top of all of that. So we're going to go ahead and get this and the washer on. The washer goes on first. So it's going to go over top of this water line here, the washer will. Then the nut will come on right directly behind it. Again, with that brass side up. We're going to go ahead and slide that up. You've got the nut that's up in here for the water line to attach to, where you have to get all that up over top of that. This nut here is what I'm talking about. This one right here. So then we're going to go ahead and get that washer pushed up against the bottom of the countertop right there. Then this nut will come up and it'll start threading. Just got to get it lined up
It'll thread up on there. Just like that. And now we're just going to go ahead and hand tighten that all the way up until it's got that pulled down somewhat tight to the bottom of the countertop. Just by hand, as tight as we can. There we go. Okay, so that's tight. Now, we're going to go ahead and just rotate this to where this is on the inside and this is on the outside. Okay, then we're going to get the tool that came with all this, which is this guy right here. We're going to put the nut side up. So we got to feed this back up over top this cold line. We're going to go ahead and get it up over top of that nut. And then that's going to go right up over top, and it's going to get on that nut that we were just tightening. And we're going to go ahead and finish tightening that nut right down with this. And there we go. So now that's good and tight. Now we're going to get the parts to tighten up the spout to the countertop, this here. The first thing we need is that U-shaped washer. And then this long nut here. So the first thing you got to do is get this U-shaped washer up over top of the stud right here. So you're just going to slide this up over top of that, just like this. And just kind of hold that there. Then you're going to take this nut and you're going to start this nut up onto that stud there, that bolt. And you're going to go ahead and just tighten this right up by hand until that U-shaped washer stays up against the bottom of the cabinet or the bottom of the countertop. Pretty long-winded, so it's going to take a second to get it there. There we go. So that's tightened up by hand. Now, we're going to go ahead and take the camera up top for a minute here. And as you can see, that spout is turned sideways and the gasket that goes underneath it's not lined up. So we want to make sure that that gasket is up underneath there and our spout is facing somewhat straight forward. Now we're going to go down there and we're going to tighten that up the rest of the way. And just before we get that super tight, we're going to come up here and just make sure that that's lined up still. This is the spout that we just, or the faucet that we just tightened up from down below. So we're going to go down there. We're going to go ahead and get this spout tightened up and then we'll work on the hot side. Get you guys back down here with me. There we go. Now I'm going to get that crescent wrench that we used to loosen the other one up with, and that's how we're going to finish tightening this nut up on this supply line, or on the tub spout, or on the spout for the sink, I mean. Just going to finish tightening that up as much as I can by hand. There we go. Now I'm going to get the wrench up in here. Just got to adjust it. And then remember, we're going to go ahead and go back up there before I get that super tight and just make sure that that spout is facing straight out. I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, that's facing straight out good now. So we're going to finish tightening that up.
I know it seems like I'm struggling a little bit. I'm just trying to keep my other hand out of the way of the camera, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. If you're able to use two hands, it does make it a little easier. All right, so I got that good and tight now. So that's solid. That's not moving around. This one's solid, not moving around. So now we just got to get this one, which is going to be the same as this here. We just need that square washer and the nut. So I got that square washer. I've got that nut. Let's go ahead and get that on there and tightened up. We're going to get that hand tight up against the bottom of the cabinet, or up against the bottom of the countertop there. And then we're going to go ahead and rotate that around again to where that's on the inside. You don't have to do that. I just do that. I don't know why I do, but you don't have to spin that around to where it's on the inside like that. I do because some faucets, it does want this on the inside. In this particular case, with this style faucet, it doesn't make any difference. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this tightened up with that tool that it came with. All right, that's good and tight now. So now we're going to go ahead and attach with the Y pipe that it came with the supply lines over to the spout. Okay, so this is that Y there. And if you notice, there's a blue, there's a red, and a yellow. The yellow is the spout. The red is the cold or the hot, and the blue is the cold. So we're going to go ahead and take this up on there. And on this spout right here, you see we got this flexible line right here. This will just simply push up on there. And I heard it click. So now you know what's on there. So now we're going to go ahead and hook up these other two lines to it. So I'm going to go ahead and hook the cold up on the blue side. And again, I heard that click. We're going to go ahead and hook the red up on the red side. And there we go. That is all connected now. So now all we got to do is put our adapters here, our supply line adapters, on and tighten those up. Okay, so those go on right here on our brass part of each of the faucet, each side of the faucet. So we're going to go ahead and get those on there. The smaller side of this bracket or of this nut will go up onto the faucet itself. The bigger side is our supply line. So that just pushes up on there. Then this brass nut tightens it down. And these only need to be hand tight because they are rubber sealed from above. So we'll get our other adapter, get it on the hot side. Doing exactly the same thing, just pushing this up on there. And then tightening the brass nut down onto the adapter. And there's that. So now only one thing left to do as far as hooking the faucet up, and that is to hook our supply lines back up. So we're going to go ahead and hook our cold supply line, which is still off, obviously. We're going to hook that up here. And we'll get our wrench out and tighten that up in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and get the hot side attached the same way. Okay, so I have both of those hand tight. Now we're going to get our crescent wrench back out and we're going to go ahead and snug those up. And again, these are rubber sealed, so these don't need to be super tight. There's that one. And I'm just holding the top part with my hand to keep it from spinning. And there we go. So you got our hot over here, our cold hooked up here. Our spout is hooked up through that Y pipe that we hooked up. Now we'll go ahead and get our drain assembly set up and put in. And then we can go ahead and turn the water on and test the faucet after we get the trim put on up top. So we'll go ahead and go back up top. We'll get the handles trimmed and then we'll go ahead and get the drain assembly going. All right, so all the pieces that we have left, we have this ring here and this ring here, which are both exactly the same. And these just drop down over top of this right here, and that's going to help seal the faucet to the countertop on both sides, the trim. Okay, so then we have a handle. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we put these handles on, we want to turn that all the way to where it would be in the off position. Then we lift this straight back up off. To where it pops off in there, make sure it's off. Then lift that up. And then you want to go ahead and set this back down on to where your handle is straight in line. Or if you want it a little bit curved, depending on the type of sink it is, you can have it curved to the angle of the sink a little bit, or you can have it straight out to where it's shut off that way. So what you want to do is after you have that sitting on there, then all you do is just tighten this bottom part down. And this is drawing the handle, this here, down to the countertop. Once you get it just straight like that, give it one little hand tight there, and then that faucet is installed. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Now remember, because this is on our cold side, it shuts off. This is on, this is off. So we want to make sure that's all the way back. Lift that up. Go ahead and get that squared up to where it's matched up with the other one to where we're right in a straight line. Then we're going to go ahead and get this there. We're going to go ahead and tighten this bottom part down, and that'll draw it down to the sink. And there we go. We got our hot and our cold faucets hooked up. So let's get you a look at that straight on. So this is what it looks like straight on. And I've got those handles straight across from one another. And normally what I do with the spout is I take this spout and you just center it up with the drain and kind of eyeball that to where we're coming straight out and it's center of that drain when it's coming straight out at us. So that's how I line that up. So let's go ahead and get you back over here. Our next part is we got to do our drain assembly. So this is the drain assembly here. This is how it comes put together. Okay, this nut, this big nut on the bottom, we're going to go ahead and loosen that up, pull that down off from there. And then there's a series of rubbers and gaskets. We've got a fiber gasket here. We have a big thick rubber here. This is the one that tightens up on the bottom of the sink. And then we have this thinner rubber here. Okay, so this thinner rubber would generally sit right up here inside the sink like that. Okay, I've been doing this for a lot of years. I don't use rubber gaskets at the top of the sink. I use plumber's putty. The plumber's putty goes right here on this outer edge here, and then when I slide that down into the sink, that plumber's putty will squish out and make my seal there. So that's how I do it. You can go ahead and use the rubber in the instructions. It's going to show you using the rubber, but I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I just found plumber's putty works better. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my plumber's putty real quick. We'll get some put on here, and we'll get it dropped down in there. So give me just a second. Let me grab my plumber's putty. So this is plumber's putty here. I'm going to go ahead and get a piece out. Now it's been cold because it's been out in my truck for a while, so you got to kind of work it a little bit by hand to get that loosened up to where you can
is to where it's pliable. There we go, got a good chunk out of that container. So I'm just going to take this chunk here and I'm just going to kind of roll it around a little bit, smash it. Just all I'm doing is warming this plumber's putty up to make it a little more pliable from being out in the cold for so long. Okay, so then the next thing I like to do is I just roll it up into a good ball like this to make sure that it's good and pliable. You can see I can squish that with no problem. It's pretty sticky. So then you're just going to roll this out and do a little snake. Just like that, okay? Then I take my pop-up assembly and I just take this and I just kind of smash it in all the way around this, like this. When I get the other end, just pinch it off, set that aside. And then you just take these two ends here and just kind of meet them together a little bit. So there's that, it's ready to go in. So then you just simply drop this down into the sink. I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm just going to kind of push this down in. And as you can see here, it's starting to squash out already, but I'm going to leave that just like that. I'm going to go ahead and tighten. The next part that goes on is this big rubber from underneath. And then this nut will tighten everything up. We'll go ahead and go back underneath and we'll get this part of it tightened up. We'll get that drain hooked up and we'll come back up here, get this cleaned up and test the faucet and see how we did. All right, we're back up underneath here. And remember, what we're going to do is we're going to take this rubber here. We're going to put that on first. That's going to go up over top of this pipe here. It's going to go up over those threads. And this part is going to sit right up tight against the bottom of that sink, just like that. Then this nut, we're going to go ahead and put that on. And we're going to go ahead and just start tightening this up until it's right up against that rubber. And then we're going to get that thing as tight as we can. We're going to hang on right here. And then we're going to go ahead and just tighten this down as tight as we can by hand right here. And as we're doing that, that's pulling the top down toward us and tightening this up. All right, so that's good and tight now. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to move the camera just a little bit. There we go. Now we got to get our P-trap and that tail, flange tail extension that we pulled off from there before hooked back up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back down. Okay. Then we've got this nut and this ferrule here that we want to put up on here. And then we put the ferrule down. And you see how that ferrule's got a bevel, the edge to it? We want that beveled edge facing down. Sometimes getting this started can be a little bit of a pain. There we go. And then that nut will sit right on top of that ferrule just like that. The next part we want to put in is our extension. So this is going to go ahead and sit right up against that nut. You can see that ferrule there. That seals right up in there. Then this nut tightens the two together. Now we're just going to get this hand tight and just to where it's just sitting there, because the next part is our P-trap. We got to get this P-trap reinstalled. And if you watch some of my other videos, like I said, I'll link that. I show in more detail how to do the P-trap. So we're going to go ahead and put this part here. You can see that that's like extended out. That will slide up over top of this here. So this goes up over top of it here. And then I'm going to go ahead and hold that. We may have to slide this slip extension or this ferrule up the pipe just a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and put that back up on here. And as you can see, this is almost lining up perfectly. Go ahead and move that around just a little bit, get that locked on. Then this nut will slide back down, tighten onto the top part of the P-trap here, onto the weir. And this here, again, just as tight as you can by hand. Okay, this top nut, same thing. We're going to bring the ferrule down to the top of the P-trap, bring this nut down, and we're just going to tighten that down as tight as we can, again, by hand. Okay, and as you can see, this is still sliding up and down just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and get that tightened down because we just left this one just like finger tight. We didn't tighten it down very tight. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a good tighten down now. There we go. Now that doesn't move up and down. This is good and tight. The only other nut we want to make sure that this here is good and tight. And there we go. Our P-trap is reinstalled. So let's go back up top. All right, so we're back up top here. And as you can see, that plumber's putty has pushed up and out all the way around this. All you got to do is just take your finger and just kind of wipe at it, and that whole chunk will come right out of there, just like that. Pull that out of the way. Go ahead and discard this. And now this drain is good to go. You push down on this one and it seals. You push it again, it releases and allows the water to go down. So all we got to do is go ahead and we'll turn the water onto the faucet. I don't know as though I ever showed you the stops down below there. I'll go ahead and bring you down. I'll show you where to turn the water on. And this is also where you would turn it off. Okay, we got this handle right here. These are just quarter turn, so we're just going to give that a quarter turn. That one is on. This one here, same thing, quarter turn. Now that one's on. Let's go back up top. Make sure we got water here. There's our cold. I'm just going to stick my hand under here just to make sure it's cold. And that one's staying cold. We'll go ahead and shut this one off. We'll turn this one on. Check to see if this one's hot. Oh yeah, she's nice and hot right there. We'll test our drain. Go ahead and turn both hot and cold on. We'll shut those off. And as you can see, it's holding water. As soon as I push this button, boom, it's draining. And it drained right out. So the only other thing that's left to do is you want to always let this sit for a few minutes. Go ahead and let these faucets run and let them run for a few minutes. And then we'll check everything down below just to make sure nothing is dripping or leaking down underneath the drain and or the supply lines or anything like that. Nothing's leaking down below. So we'll give that just a minute. We'll go back down underneath here and just check everything out. So as you can see, we have no drips. The drain is sealed up good. I think we're in pretty good shape there. We'll go ahead and let that run for a little bit longer and check it one more time. But I think overall, we're in good shape. Well, there you go, guys. We got the new faucet installed. It's working the way that it's supposed to, hot and cold. We have no leaks down underneath. The drain assembly is working right. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow. Have a great day. And remember, you got this. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks.